UFC 306, O'Malley versus Dvalishvilli picks. But first, I'm going to do a quick little recap on last week between Sean Brady and Gilbert Burns. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time. I'm not even going to have a visual for it. I only missed 2 picks, and that was the main and co-main event. I had Andrade, and then I had Gilbert Burns. They both lost. Other than that, though, I got every other fight on that card right. Chris Padilla was an underdog. I picked him, and then I also picked Yanal Ashmu, although I think he ended up closing as a slight favorite. When I picked him, he was an underdog. Yeah, other than that, Gilbert Burns pretty much looks the same as he always has, just older, just a little bit slower. I picked him. I thought personally he'd be able to have a little more success stuffing the takedowns, and also the pressure from Sean Brady was really impressive, and his gas tank, which I had criticized before from the Michael Chiesa fight and some of his other fights, looked much better in this one. The pace he put was pretty crazy. And then in the co-main event, I did have Andrade. I thought Andrade was going to win. She got outpointed, picked apart. Pretty much beat everywhere. She's probably on the tail end of her career as well. She could still beat girls, obviously. She'd won 2 fights before this, but as far as, maybe title contention, that's probably out the window at this point. But that being said, we are going to jump straight into UFC 306. Let me pull up Tapology here so I can get the card. Let's see. Here we go. All right, so the first fight is Raul Rosas Jr. in Arichi Lang. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Let me pull up the card just so I have it on my Tapology. But yeah, I'm going with Rosas in this one. I think it's pretty obvious the UFC's building Raul Rosas Jr. up. He is talented, especially when it comes to his grappling. Arichi Lang, he's pretty much just a striker, can't really grapple. This is another layup for Raul Rosas Jr. Probably submission. He'll probably submit. I got Raul Rosas by submission, probably round 1, maybe round 2. There's not a whole lot to really go off on this pick. Again, the UFC likes to build up certain prospects. This being the UFC Mexico card, basically, with it, Mexican themed, with all the Mexican fighters. It's pretty obvious what the UFC's doing here with Raul Rosas Jr. to open up the card. They're trying to get him an easy win, and that's probably what's going to happen here. I got Raul Rosas by submission. Probably first round, maybe in the second round. All right, so let's see. Moving on up the card, we have Edgar Chairez versus Joshua Van. There's no graphic on this one, so bear with me. But, Joshua Van just fought not too long ago. He got TKO'd by Charles Johnson. He got clipped with an uppercut in the 3rd round. Now, I was pretty high on Joshua Van. I think he's like 22, 23. He's got pretty good boxing, good forward pressure, but I don't know. Sometimes he gets a little predictable with his movement patterns. It's just so forward pressure, such a boxing heavy style that sometimes, it's easy to make reads on him and counter him. I don't like the fact that he is stepping in on short notice, after just getting TKO'd, a month ago? Something like that. Let me double check. He just fought Charles Johnson, Joshua Van, July 13th. So a little bit longer ago, but still, couple months. I don't really like to see him, take a fight, especially being young. I'm one of those people that feel like fighters really, I don't know, they really shouldn't start fighting, super actively, in my opinion, until they're about 24, 25. I feel like sometimes when you get these prospects and they start at 18 and they're, some of them even start fighting at like 16, 17, depending on, the state or country they come from. But I just think the damage that you're going to take in some of these fights, especially at the UFC level, it could backfire. He may be 22, 23 now, but how's he going to look when he's 27? He might already kind of be washed by then because of the damage he's taken. I'm not saying that's the case, but it could be. I do think Joshua Van, he is probably the slicker striker, slicker hands, good boxing, and I believe he actually on DraftKings is minus 230. So even on short notice, a lot of people are picking him. but I'm not. I'm going Edgar Charez. I just think it's too quick of a turnaround for Van at his age. I think he needs to focus a little more on just improving his skill set and not, not just trying to jump in there ASAP to try to get one back after a loss. I don't like that. I'm going to go Edgar Charez. I feel like he's actually a pretty decent grappler. Anyone that can go 3 rounds with Tatsuro Taira and hold their own and not get just completely dominated or subbed is a pretty decent grappler. And I feel like we're probably going to see this a little bit in this fight. I think we're going to see Charez use his grappling, kind of slow Van down. I'm going to go with the underdog here and Edgar Charez. I'm going to go by decision. Tough fight to pick. Van I do feel like is the better striker, and I do feel like if this fight was maybe like a full notice, not short notice, and Van had like a camp and he had time to like prepare, I would probably pick Joshua Van. But in this case, I'm not. I'm going to go Edgar Charez with the underdog here by decision. So moving on up the card, we got Yasmin Yargway versus Ketlin Souza. Now this one I kind of went back and forth on in terms of who I was going to pick. Let me pull up their records real quick on my phone. So we got Yasmin Yargway 11-1, and we have Ketlin Souza 14-4. Ketlin Souza, she's coming off a win over Marnik Man. Is that what I'm fucking seeing? Marnik Man by decision. And before that, she lost to Karine Silva. And, she had some wins before that, mostly by decision. I'm looking through here. I kind of went back and forth just because Yasmin Yargway did get starched by Denise Gomes. Denise Gomes absolutely starched her in like 20 seconds when she was a big favorite. She has rebounded. She beat Sam Hughes by decision. And before that, she did beat Itzla Nunez and then Yasmin Lucindo. And then she was undefeated before that. This one's tough, but I'm probably going to go Yasmin Yargway by decision. Again, the UFC typically likes to do these matchups where they put the Mexican prospect on the card and they want them to win. Obviously, it's a Mexican-themed card. But this one's tough. I could see, Ketlin Souza maybe getting, sneaking out a decision here. But I am going to go with Yasmin Yargway. She's got good boxing, and I think she's probably going to win a decision based off of damage over the course of 3 rounds. Tough fight to pick, though. But I am going to go Yasmin Yargway by decision here. So moving up the card, we got Manuel Torres versus Ignacio Bahamondes. Now, a lot of people are riding high on Manuel Torres, and I get it. His performances that we've seen, he has like starched the competition. His Contender Series fight, was a little weird. He kind of he didn't necessarily eye poke a guy, but they were posted up in the clinch, and then he palmed his face like this, and then kind of just scraped his eyes. It wasn't like a stabbing poke, but it was more of like a scrape like this, and then he immediately just kind of TKO'd him. It was a bit bullshit, but I don't know. I don't look at that fight and take too much out of it. But in the UFC, Manuel Torres, he's looked good. Up to this point. He knocked out Frank Camacho in the first round. He knocked out Nicholas Mata in the first round, and then he submitted Chris Duncan in the first round. All very impressive wins. But my only concern is how does he do over the course of a 3-round fight if he can't just go in there and and starch a guy in the first round. Bahamondes, I don't know. I was back at first. I was picking Manuel Torres on this fight. But then I ended up watching some tape, and I kind of changed my mind, and I'm going Bahamondes with the upset here. Reason being is I feel like Bahamondes is very technically sound. He's well-rounded. He's got good kicks. He's rangy. He knows how to use his jab. He knows how to use his distance. He moves around. He can get taken down pretty easily, but I don't know. That's not really Manuel Torres' game. He's not just going to ragdoll the fuck out of people. Let me turn off my phone notifications. He's not just going to ragdoll the fuck out of people. He can grapple, and he's got that wiry strength, Manuel Torres. But I don't know. I just feel like Bahamondes is durable enough, technical enough to be able to survive that first round and kind of make it a bit of a dog fight in the second and third, and force Manuel Torres to kind of recover and try to push that pace. I don't know, man. This one's a tough one to pick too, but I am going to go with the underdog, Bahamondes, by decision. Probably 29-28. He'll probably lose the first round. He'll have to survive some tough moments, maybe get his back taken at some point. But I think he's going to survive, and I think he's going to 29-28 it. I think that Manuel Torres might fatigue a bit, and then in the second or third, he's going to get picked apart. Tough fight to pick. This one, in my opinion, is the hardest fight on the whole card to really to pick. But I am going to go Bahamondes by decision. I think he's going to survive that first round, and then get some water. Survive that first round, and then he's probably going to just do enough to win the second, third, and scrape by decision. So that's my pick. I'm going Bahamondes by decision on this one. Next up on the card, we have Irene Aldana versus Norma Dumont. Honestly, just straight up, I think Irene Aldana is kind of overrated. I don't know why people view her. I need a fucking tissue or something. I don't know why people, God damn it. There you go. I don't know why people look at Irene Aldana and they're so like high on her and her striking. She's got decent boxing, but outside of that, I don't really see anything special with her, to be honest. Irene Aldana. Norma Dumont. I'm gonna go Norma Dumont by decision here. I think the grappling is gonna be the difference. I think the clinch also, her strength, and just I think she's gonna out hustle Irene Aldana. I'm gonna go Norma Dumont by decision here. Over the course of 3 rounds, she's probably gonna outwork her, out clinch her, get some takedowns, and probably win the fight. I'm gonna go with the underdog here. So moving on up to start the main card, we got Ronaldo Rodriguez versus Ode Osborne. This one, the UFC is trying to get The UFC is trying to get Ronaldo Rodriguez the win here. Prospect. Ode Osborne hasn't had the best success in the UFC, although he did beat Charles Johnson by split decision, although I thought he lost that fight. So, I mean, if you look at it, he's probably like on a 3-fight losing streak if you want to, count that as a loss. But Ronaldo Rodriguez only had 1 fight in the UFC, and I've always said it, man, like, you might look at these records and see 12-7 versus 17-2 and go, isn't this kind of obvious who's going to win? That's not always the case. Sometimes these guys coming into the UFC, they fight on the regional scene, fight a bunch of cans, beat them, have a nice little record, look pretty good, and then they fight somebody that's actually decent. It's like, oh, they're not as good as we thought. I don't think that's going to be the case in this one. I don't think Ode Osborne is that great. If I'm being honest, he's just, I don't know. I feel like that Charles Johnson fight was by far and away his best performance, and I still kind of thought he lost it, even though he did get the decision. I'm going to go Ronaldo Rodriguez. I'm going to trust the prospect. I'm going to trust the UFC and what they're trying to do with the marketing and getting some of these Mexican fighters a win here. So I'm going to go Ronaldo Rodriguez. I don't know what I'm going to pick him by. Let me check. He's got some submissions, got a couple of KOs, decisions. Ode Osborne, though, he's pretty tough. He's not, I don't know. He does, have a bit of a hole in his ground game. He's lost his last 2 fights by submission. But on the feet, he is pretty decent. He did get knocked out by Tyson Nam in that infamous commentary with DC, basically saying during the fight that Ode Osborne was going to win the fight, and then all of a sudden Tyson Nam, like not even like fucking 5 seconds later, KOs him. It was pretty funny, but I'm going to go Ronaldo Rodriguez, probably by submission. I think Ode Osborne he's got too many holes on the ground, and we're going to see Rodriguez get it done by submission. The UFC knows what they're doing with this matchup. I'm going to go Ronaldo Rodriguez. Next fight up at the card was another tough one to pick. Daniel Zellhuber versus Esteban Ribovic. I did a lot of tape study for this fight. And, fuck, man, it's tough. Ribovich is, he's slick on the ground a little bit. He off his back, he'll throw up omoplatas and kimuras and scramble out of positions. He's not the craziest sub threat though. He's just more of a good defensive grappler. And hold on, let me pull up my phone. Fucking goddamn it. But Daniel Zellhuber is, he's a technical striker, and I feel like he is going to kind of outpick apart Ribovich on the feet. I'm fucking confusing Daniel Zellhuber with Inacio Bahamondes just because of their builds, and they kind of have a similar style, so bear with me on that. I keep fucking forgetting and mixing them up while I'm thinking about them. But, Zellhuber, his only loss was to Trey Ogden. Both of these guys are going to struggle with wrestlers and top-heavy wrestlers. We saw that with Loic, the Loic-Razabov fight in Esteban Ribovich. Loic basically just kind of took him down and controlled him, just out-muscled him, out-wrestled him. Similar thing in the Trey Ogden fight. Both of these guys are going to struggle against, top-heavy wrestlers. But they're not wrestlers, and they're going to be fighting each other. I expect this fight to be pretty much a striking match. And that being said, at first, I was leaning towards Ribovich, but after watching some of the tape study, I don't know, the way he gets hit a lot, and he doesn't have the greatest defense, and he kind of just marches forward. He is dangerous. He does throw. He just head kicked Terrence McKinney, but Terrence McKinney is a kill-or-be-killed fighter, and Terrence McKinney kind of fights dumb. Terrence McKinney should grapple and use his wrestling and his jiu-jitsu more, but he doesn't. He just fucking throws heat, basically brawls, and then he either KOs you or he gets knocked out. That's kind of what Terrence McKinney does, and he played right into Ribovich's game. But I'm gonna go Daniel Zellhuber on this one by decision. At first, I was picking Ribovich as an underdog, and I do still like him as an underdog. I do think he is pretty good, but stylistically, I think this is just a tough matchup for him. I think both of these guys are kind of similar in what they do. I just think that, God damn it, I almost call him Bahamondes again. Zellhuber, I feel like, is just a little more technical and just a little more sharp. Switches his stance, cuts angles. He's very defensively sound. And I'm gonna go Zellhuber by decision on this one. Although Ribovich was a tempting pick for me, but I am going to go Zellhuber by decision here. Moving on up, we got Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopez rebooked. When this fight first was announced and it was going to happen, I picked Lopez. I just didn't like the way Ortega kind of looked against Yair on the feet. And Lopez is a pretty good grappler himself, so I don't know if Brian Ortega is going to have a huge submission and grappling advantage, that he normally has over most of his opponents. But after watching the Dan Ige fight, I'm kind of leaning towards Ortega. Now, I get that, that was a weird situation. It was a crazy, 4-hour notice or some shit where Dan Ige fought him on 4 hours notice. Dan Ige also did not have to cut weight. He kind of just showed up, weighed in, I think, what was a catch weight of 165 or some shit. Whereas Lopez actually had to make featherweight. He actually had to cut down to featherweight because he weighed in to fucking fight Brian Ortega, and then Ortega had to pull the day of the fight. And then they did I think they did 3 weigh-ins. I think the weigh-in, so when he was going to fight Ortega, he weighed in at 145 because it was a featherweight fight. And then I think he had to weigh in at 155 because they were negotiating some shit. And then they ended up settling at 165 or something. So there was, some disadvantages on Diego Lopez's part. The fact that he did actually, have to cut to featherweight the day before and make featherweight. And then the fact that Dan Ige didn't have to cut weight at all, showed up on the day of the fight. But that's also a disadvantage. Zero preparation. Literally fucking zero preparation Dan Ige had for that. He just showed up, weighed in, fucking taped his hands, did a little warm-up, and then went and fucking fought, which is pretty crazy. And he had, pretty good success, Dan Ige. He lost the first 2 rounds, kind of got outpointed, and then the 3rd round, though, Dan Ige kind of beat his ass, to be honest with you. Lopez gassed out, and then Ige just kind of beat him up had full guard, and won the round. And if it was a 5-round fight, it looked like Ige was probably going to win that fight. Lopez, though, I did think he injured. He fucked up his neck in that fight or something with his throat, because if you watch that fight, Diego Lopez kept like doing this thing where he would be in his stance and then he'd tap his fucking throat and like kind of stretch his neck and tap his throat. It seemed like something was fucked up in his neck or his throat or something. And I think I did hear about that after the fight, which could have played a factor as well. But I'm going to go Ortega. I'm going to go Ortega, and I'm going to go by submission. I think that he's going to lose the first round. In fact, I think he's going to get his ass beat in the first round and probably almost knocked out. He's going to survive, tough it out. We're going to see Lopez slow down, and we're going to see Ortega just dog it out and probably end up get a takedown and probably end up submitting Lopez at some point. I'm going to go Brian Ortega in this one. I think a lot of people are sleeping on him, and I get it. He physically he hasn't looked the best. He's looked a little out of shape. He's been talking about moving up to lightweight, and then all of a sudden, they rebooked this fight at featherweight. So there is some concern there, but I'm gonna go T-City. I'm gonna go T-City as the underdog. I'm gonna go by submission, 3rd round. I think it's gonna be a war. I think he's gonna get his ass beat in the first round. I think Ortega's gonna get rocked, hurt, have to survive, and then he's gonna, he might even lose the second round too. But I feel like he's gonna slow him down. He's gonna slow Diego Lopez down in the second round, kind of clinch up with him, grapple, land a couple of strikes, and then by the 3rd round, I feel like Lopez is gonna be pretty worn out. And I think we're going to see Brian Ortega get him to the ground and lock up a sub. So I'm going to go Brian Ortega by submission in this one in the 3rd round. Moving on up to the co-main event. We got Alexa Grasso and Valentina Shevchenko, the rubber match. First fight, Grasso won. She won by submission in the 4th round in a comeback in a fight she was losing. Then the second fight was a draw, although a lot of people thought Valentina won. It was close. I'm going Grasso. I'm going Grasso in this one. And the reason being is I feel like Valentina is slowing down. Even before, she lost her title, even in the fights that she won, it just progressively seemed like the performances were getting a little, worse and worse and worse, and a little sloppier and sloppier as they went on. I feel like her dominance has kind of, it's slow. The gap is slowly closing between Shevchenko and the rest of the division. And her performances are also kind of dropping off a bit. And I think Grasso is on the opposite spectrum, is kind of on the rise up. I feel like she's gaining more confidence. Even drawing with Valentina is a confidence booster for her, because Valentina, before that in the first fight, you could say, Grasso got lucky. She was losing the fight. Valentina threw a shitty spinning back fist, got her back taken and submitted. You could kind of, say that. But after the second fight, I don't think you can really say that, because Grasso legitimately did, have moments in that fight and made it really close, and it ended up being a draw. And I'm going to go Grasso in this one. I feel like she's going to be a little bit sharper. She's going to be a little more, confident. And I feel like her game plan is going to finally work this time. I think the boxing, the pressure, avoiding the kick range, clinching up, getting to some of the grappling scenarios, getting her back. I'm going to go Grasso. I'm going to go Alexa Grasso by decision here. I think she's going to beat Valentina. I think Valentina is starting to slow down a bit. Similar to Burns, Brady, even Adesanya, Duplessis. I've usually typically gone with the OG, the dominant force, in this case Adesanya, or not in this case, but in the Adesanya Duplessis fight, I kind of was banking on that, and I don't know. I should probably stop doing that, because age is real, man, and damage is real, and these older fighters, even if they had legendary runs, once they start to slow down, they slow down and they end up losing some fights. And I think that's kind of happening to Valentina here. Similar to Izzy, similar to Gilbert Burns. And I'm going to go Alexa Grasso by decision here. I think she's going to defend the title. The main event of the evening, Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvilli. Went back and forth. When this fight was first announced, I was all over Merab. I thought Merab was going to win. But I've watched a lot of tape, and I've switched my pick. I'm going O'Malley, and I'm going by KO. First round KO for Sean O'Malley. Merab, the thing is with this fight, man, is Merab has to be perfect for 25 minutes in order to win. He has to be perfect for 25 minutes in order to beat Sean O'Malley. Because O'Malley, he's got pretty good conditioning, and he does carry his power in late in the fight, in the 4th and 5th rounds. Even, after a grueling fight, he still keeps his power. And that's a problem. He's not one of those guys where if you take him down or kind of just grapple him for a round or two, he loses that snappiness and that explosive punching power. Some guys are kind of like that. O'Malley's not like that. He carries his power deep into the fight, even, in a grueling fight. And that's going to be a problem for Merab, is he's got to be perfect for 25 minutes. I do think Merab can take him down, but I just don't know if Merab can hold him down. That's the problem. O'Malley's so damn long and lanky for the division. I feel like, if Merab gets him down, he's going to have a hard time really just keeping him there. And also, I don't see Merab submitting him. I don't see Merab TKOing him with ground and pound. I don't see Merab knocking him out in the feet. Definitely not that. I could see Merab, maybe winning the first couple of rounds, using that pace, using that wrestling, and then maybe getting, clipped late. But I don't know, man. I see this fight playing somewhat similar to Aldo and McGregor. I feel like Merab is really going to try to press forward early, aggressive, get the takedown, because he has to. He has to. He can't make the same mistake Aljo made. The thing that Aljo fucked up with that fight is he tried to set up his shot way too much. With a guy like O'Malley, who's as rangy and as good at distance management and footwork and things like that, you can't fuck around on the feet with him trying to set up a takedown, because he's just going to end up making reads on you and fucking snipe you, which is exactly what he did to Aljo. Aljo waited way too long to initiate a takedown in that fight. With O'Malley, you have to get on his ass like that. I'm talking the first 10 seconds, you need to be on a shot on O'Malley, on a single leg, and have him. You just have to force O'Malley to grip a hold of you and lock his hands and use his arms and pummel. Even though he carries his power, later in the fight, you have to force him to do that early. You have to force him to work early, because if not, if you try to play that game where you're on the outside and you're feinting and you're level changing and you're trying to set up your takedown, that shit's not going to work against O'Malley. He's just going to fucking blast you with a left straight right down the pipe and put you on your ass while you're trying to fuck around setting up a takedown. That shit's not going to work. His footwork's too good. His distance management's too good. You have to get on his ass immediately. Grab a hold of him immediately. Even if you fail your takedown attempts early, you have to force O'Malley to grapple. And I just don't see that working. I think O'Malley's going to crack him early and get him out of there. I'm going to go Sean O'Malley by first round knockout. I think a lot of people are riding on Merab. I get it. I haven't seen anyone really wrestle fuck O'Malley enough to make me go, oh, Merab's just going to be able to hold him down for 25 minutes. I haven't seen that. Even Petr Yan had some success with his wrestling against O'Malley, but it was also, a striking match, and Petr Yan actually rocked O'Malley, and, Yan's a threat on the feet. That's the difference. Merab isn't a threat on the feet to O'Malley at all. He's zero threat to him. Petr Yan's an actual threat on the feet and on the ground. That's the difference, is that Merab has to be perfect for 25 minutes. You know what I mean? And I just don't see that happening. I think Sean O'Malley's going to win. I got Sean O'Malley by first round KO. That's my pick. I think that Merab's going to run into a shot similar to, McGregor Aldo. Maybe not in like fucking 15 seconds, but some point in the first round, I do think Merab's going to fuck up, kind of rush in, frantic and get clipped with something. Probably like a left straight, maybe like an uppercut or a knee. But I'm going to go Sean O'Malley by first round knockout. And that is my UFC 306 picks. Maybe I'll do, a long shot parlay. I don't know. Maybe not. We'll see. Fucking goddamn it. As I'm trying to get my shit working here. There we go. So, yeah. I don't know if I'll do a long shot parlay. Maybe. Maybe I'll do just like a safe parlay instead. Maybe like a 3 or 4 pick parlay that I'm pretty confident in for a video. But these are my predictions and breakdowns on UFC 306. And I will see you motherfuckers later. Have a good one.